Manhands Meatloaf. This is episode 8. Right now. We're talking about doing a Fox News breaking story. This just in. But I don't want to do any fake Fox headlines.
No, they're fake enough.
Yeah.
But
So this episode, actually, I'll tell you the name. It's called Flying Blind. Mike and I were just now talking about this. We have not talked about what we're going to talk about at all, have we? So we're going to see what happens. This is like is it a brain test or conversation test?
I don't know.
We'll just see.
Why is it a test?
Why is it a test? I guess to see if we're any good at it. Hey, are those podcasters good at conversation? But I think we'll be just fine, don't you?
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
How's your week been?
It's gone very well so far.
So there are, you've had some events this week.
Some events.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't hear. But no, the wife's out of town.
Oh, yes. My wife is out of town for a few days for a trip related to her job. So she's in Ireland for about a week, a little more. Yeah. And so I am a single parent.
That's right. For a few days anyway.
For a few days, yeah.
Yeah. Which can be fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've done some fun stuff.
You still have rules or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
I remember when our son was younger, much younger, who, by the way, our son now is the producer. Thanks, Joe, for all your help. When he was much younger, Lori went out of town on a ladies' retreat with the church. And so we both were missing her, terribly. Oh, we miss mommy, whatever. So he wanted to sleep in our room with us. So I made him a pallet on the ground, right? Which is verboten. I mean, you have your own room, you got whatever.
Yeah.
So it worked for 3 nights, and she comes back 2.5 months later. He's still sleeping on a pallet in our room. So that was probably not a plus 10 parent.
8 years later, still on a pallet in the room.
We have a 4-person family bunk bed, a quadra bed.
But some folks do that.
That's right. Yeah. There's a name for that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Close parenting.
Yeah, I forgot what it was called.
I feel like there's a name. Anyway, Mayim Bialik, Blossom.
Bless you.
She is an advocate, or as I understand it, is an advocate for that style of parenting, and I think that includes things like, sort of. I'm not sure how to say that.
Easy.
I just thought
easy
about
now.
I was saying it sounded silly in my brain. But like breastfeeding, like beyond what maybe most people would like until the child decides they don't want to.
Right.
Right. Co-sleeping, I think they call that. Right. Yeah. Things like that. So yeah. But yeah, that's not something necessarily we took part of. Anyway.
No, occasionally we'll camp out like in the living room.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
We even like pulled the mattress in there because
fun.
I don't like sleeping on the floor. So we have a full size mattress in a guest room that we actually have pulled out into the living before, and Sam and I have.
That's pretty good.
Camped out.
Yeah, totally.
Quote, unquote,
we've done that.
Movie.
Have we ever done that? I'm trying to think we've ever done anything like that. I'm not sure that we have.
Maybe we can do it tonight.
No, maybe we won't.
That'd be great.
Maybe there's a reason we've never done that. We've also never actually camped, like outside camping. Not a fan.
You have never camped before? Or you together, your family?
The family, right. I have in my life slept in a tent outside.
Yes.
I worked at a day camp when I was, I guess, in high school or college. And so, but I do not like camping. I was not a Boy Scout, or I never camped. That's not my thing.
Do you just like the woods?
I love the woods, and I like to go to the woods and to return from the woods. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I could do a day hike for sure.
Yeah.
But I would not want to stay overnight.
Last time I went camping, it was we call it car camping.
Okay.
You've packed a bunch of stuff in your car, and you basically pull up to a site, and you're not like hiking miles into the woods. You know what I'm saying? The campsite is 20, 30 feet from the car. You know what I'm saying? It's not really camping because you're right there. It's like an approved campsite.
Right.
Yeah, it got so cold at one point. I didn't care. I went and got in the car, turned the heat on.
Slept in the car.
Just for a little bit. Then I climbed back out into the tent once I'd warmed up a bit.
Right.
I've never told anyone that.
It's funny you mentioned that. You okay?
Yeah.
Let's just let it sit for a minute. It's funny you mentioned that. Hearing you say it reminded me that I have slept. This is not camping, I don't guess, but I have slept in my car. And here things get weird. No, like on a...
See, we don't have a homeless problem. We have a camping problem. America has a camping problem.
No, on a like a road trip, right?
Oh, sure.
Coming back, we stopped at a rest stop. Instead of like getting a room or whatever,
you get to take a break from
taking
driving.
turns driving, right? Done that twice. Once on a rest stop, once in the parking lot of a Pilot Travel Center.
I wouldn't consider either of those camping.
No, they're not right. That's as close as I've come because I just inside a domicile, inside a house type place, I can sleep anywhere. I can sleep on the floor in a bed and sleep in a recliner. So it's not completely posh, but I don't like.
I don't mind camping. What I don't like is being cold.
Sure.
So even if it's cold outside, if I've prepared for that and I hate my feet to be cold, especially. I cannot sleep when my feet are like frigid. So if I've prepared for that, socks, whatever, nice sleeping bag, whatever you need to do that, I'm generally okay. I mean, obviously if I had to like survive that way, I guess it would make do. But anyway.
So while Mom's out of town, is the boy pining or just sort of getting on with things, enjoying some time with Dad?
He does pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't sit around.
You don't dwell.
No.
Yeah.
There's been no wailing.
That'd be great. That's funny. There was a time not too long ago when if I were in your situation, I'd probably be the one wailing partly too. Yeah, me and the daughter.
Maybe you love your wife more. Is that what you're saying?
Is that
what you're saying?
I didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
I think letting you say it makes more of an impact.
We miss her.
No, sure.
We're just not sitting around.
Well, no, and I say that as I said to sort of, I was reflecting upon that this week, actually. I think we talked about this earlier in the week. That, I consider it a bit of growth within me. That I'm not quite so, because we talked about this a little bit. We talked about it. I don't mind sharing this with
the rest of the world.
The 7 folks who may trip upon our site. At Manhands Podcast on Twitter, by the way. But I have some, I think, what a mental health professional has diagnosed as abandonment issues. It's funny because I actually wasn't seeing the individual for myself. I went as a kind of as a help to someone else, but I was talking to a counselor, right? So after my time there, this person later came back to me and said, "It's funny because my counselor said to me, do you know he has abandonment issues?" And I was like, wow, that's weird. And I think that's probably true. But
so the counselor revealed something to this other person.
Someone else about me.
About you.
That's right. So
Are mental health professionals bound to like HIPAA and other things like that?
I think because of the situation, it was totally fine. And it didn't bother me at all.
So you weren't paying them so they're allowed to talk about whatever they want to talk
about?
No,
yeah, and I went of my own volition.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it too.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
So when you're forced to see
you have to see
counselor, they can't talk about it, but
right.
It's to be a lesson to you all.
And maybe because I didn't have like psychotic issues, maybe abandonment issues safe enough. But when they told me that, I thought, well, I guess that makes sense. But as I was mentioning to you earlier this week, and they were texting about it, I was never actually abandoned as a child. Like my folks, my dad's
passed. You know of.
That's right. Yeah, it's like the Truman Show in the worst possible way.
Maybe go back, maybe like hypnosis. You can reveal.
Like I lost 3 years.
Yeah,
I was in South Dakota.
That's right.
I lived in
the
Badlands. But no, my folks never divorced. My dad passed last year, but I was fully grown when that happened, and I had siblings who were there. And there was one time when I was younger that I fell asleep in the back of the car. And when my parents got home, they let me stay sleeping, and they went in the house.
That's it.
But, I mean,
ding, ding, ding.
That's not that jarring. If that gave me abandonment issues, I feel really sort of...
You're fragile.
I feel very fragile all of a sudden. Fragile. Yeah. Oh, man.
Even as we speak now, I feel there are podcast listeners abandoning us.
Please don't leave. What have I done? What could I do to make you stay? But anyway, no, I think there's some, and those issues have, without getting too sort of focused on the family, unless we just want to.
Sure.
But yeah, they've sort of.
Did you mean like literally focus on the family, or James Dobson?
No, that was an intentional, ironic reference to James Dobson. Okay. I don't want to talk about him though, because so far we've kept it PG-13. Yeah. I would take it to a dark place.
Let's move on.
But yeah, I think through my married years, it has come up a little bit. Yeah. It's been a bit of a struggle, this whole idea of abandonment, which is weird, right? And I've had long conversations. In case you don't know, kind meatloafers, Mike and I have been friends for a little while.
A little bit.
So we've had some of these conversations before. We've talked about this at some length, that I have these, I think what you would call irrational or completely unfounded fears that come from this place that has nothing to do with my current situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I mentioned maybe someone close to you has. Maybe you know what I'm saying?
Maybe I've observed abandonment.
It's sympathetic.
And see, I thought about that. I'm gonna have to dig a bit deeper and see if there's something.
I'm not a counselor, but I play one on the podcast.
I'll have to think about that a little bit. Yeah, but I do become a bit introspective about that sometimes, only because I don't know.
You become introspective about everything.
I know. I'm a bit of a. We're both thinkers. It doesn't
overthinkers.
Because otherwise it sounds self-congratulatory, doesn't it? We're thinkers, and you're not.
I'm what you may call a thinking man.
But all that to say, to bring it back full circle, I think those issues made me a bit, and I think if my wife were here, she would nod and laugh a bit clingy. Right?
Yeah.
And I think slowly, I'm becoming less unhealthily clingy.
Less clingy.
In the bad way, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that. Maybe we could do a podcast without you holding my hand.
No,
if we're working on the clingy
listen,
issues.
I said slowly.
Okay.
Listen, I'm not ready for, we need to take our time here. So sometimes that's all that gets me through.
This may be the worst podcast ever.
I think it might be the best. I feel a lot better.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad you do.
Well, now I want to talk about this. We've already had dedicated a whole episode to this, but I want to come back to it because it happened this week. Habemus Papam.
Yeah.
Actually, right now we don't have a pope at all.
Don't.
We are pope-less. The Cardinals are kind of running the show, although they can't really do anything.
Didn't the Pope met with them to discuss when they would get together? But I'm not sure what was decided.
I don't either. I think he's taken up residence at Castel Gandolfo.
Which sounds pretty awesome.
It does sound. Did you see it? Have you had a chance to see it?
No, but I'm thinking Lord of the Rings.
It's amazing.
The Gandalfo, obviously.
I know.
I thought Helm's Deep or something.
It's a gorgeous facility, but he officially, as of 8:00 last Thursday, I think he's now Pope Emeritus. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he has any contact with the College of Cardinals right now.
I think he's going to stay out of it.
I do too. I
Based
really
on what
do.
He said. I think he's done.
And I thought about this a lot as I was listening to a lot of the commentary. This is the part that I think I've been sort of stuck on. Because I do think he has been acting out of humility. It's just interesting to me because we don't have a lot of examples in current, let me say, American religious culture of spiritual leaders exercising genuine humility without having first been acted upon. Do you know what I mean to say? There's plenty of contrition.
Yeah.
There's plenty of those Jimmy Swaggart crying at the pulpit moments. But because, and I said this because of this, he was such a strong advocate for, at one point, sort of a liberal approach, but in his later years, a more conservative approach. Such a strong intellectual mind, so almost fierce in a way that it seemed so odd that he would act in such a humble way. I think because we don't have any examples of that in our current culture.
I think the closest we could have come to, may have been Billy Graham the last 10, 15 years. But I think his son, and whatever your thoughts may be on this or others, I think this may be where his son may have tarnished the legacy just a bit, coming out recently with the last election.
Right.
And a lot of people got the impression that was not Billy Graham, but his son doing this for him on his behalf.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
But he kind of played that role of America's pastor emeritus, and presidents still went to visit him and consulted him.
And he, in a sense, he stepped down when he couldn't do it anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Stayed kind of where he was. It really bothered me that those that his children would want to.
Yeah, and I think it's important, as you I think alluded to, that it isn't about political persuasion. It's about the fact that for 60 years nearly, Billy Graham sort of lived out, I think, Paul's exhortation to pray for those in leadership. And then I think clearly his son made it partisan.
Yeah, I think I watched a thing, the last president he endorsed was Nixon.
Okay, yeah.
And, but not even, I don't think it was even the Nixon that won. It was Nixon prior to him winning. Right. And he said he wouldn't do it again after all of that. He wouldn't do it again. And he did go to the White House and met with folks, but did not endorse anyone until recently.
That's right. And he maintained his level of involvement irrespective of the party or the individual in office, through Carter, Clinton, both Bush's, Reagan. So, that was frustrating. But, hearing people on TV say that Pope Benedict, being the leader of a flock of 1.2 billion people, having, in some sense, they called it supreme power over, not literally over their whole lives, but having this leadership position over 1.2 billion people, and just saying, I can't do the job as well as I'd like to, so I'm going to step down. That really struck me Thursday for the first time as a real act of humility. Yeah.
I was reading somewhere they're talking about a couple of the folks who, I guess, they're being talked about to take his place. Mm-hmm. And one of them, I can't remember his name. They said, he would be a great person. He's done this, that, and whatever, but he doesn't have very much pastoral experience. And I kind of thought to myself, how much pastoral experience does the Pope need? I mean, obviously he officiates over certain mass, other different things, but I mean, how much? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not really involved.
Is
in
he doing a lot of marriage counseling? Is he,
visiting
a lot of hospital visits? I mean,
another potluck at the Vatican City.
Right.
Yeah.
You think of that mostly because of that 1.2 billion. It's largely an administrative role, a symbolic. I mean, not in the sense that you don't do anything, but that you are a symbol for the Vatican, the Church, etc.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, it'll be fun to see how it plays out. I think the hope is to have a new pope by Easter, which would be great.
Yeah, they could announce it on Easter morning.
Oh my gosh, right?
Wouldn't that be something?
That would be great fodder for conspiracy theorists too. Like, it'd make everybody happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean to say? It'd make the Dan Brown folks and also just regular Catholics
It'd be neat. They could have some women go to the conclave where the cardinals are, and it's empty. They're gone. They're gone.
Oh, that's good.
The men whom you seek have left.
And then Sandy Patty could be just off camera at Marnell Harris.
That'd be great.
Was it a morning like this? Anyway, so that'll be good to
I'm trying to imagine Sandy Patty and Larnell Harris at the Vatican.
I can see it.
And the conversation that led them there.
Oh, friend of a friend, right? I'm assuming they're both still active in their singing careers and ministry.
I really don't know.
I don't
feel
keep
bad
track
now
either,
because we made mention of Carmen a few podcasts
and apparently
ago.
he's taken ill. That's right. Yeah, it's horrible.
He has cancer. Now I feel bad speaking about anybody.
Well, no, Carmen, we wish you the best.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll get better.
You can do it.
Full remission.
Live strong.
One other thing I want to talk to you about.
Yes.
I want to talk about your blog post.
Okay.
So now this will go up sometime first week in March, so to date it a bit. You wrote a post, mdmcmullin.com. You wrote a post about, let me try to encapsulate it as a reader. Then you can tell me if I missed the mark.
Okay.
You wrote about folks in ministry, I would say, church folks, who appropriate other folks' material in a way that makes it seem like it's their material.
Yeah.
One. Right?
Yeah.
That kind of the big thing that whether it be pastors or worship leaders or churches on the whole who hear of something or experience something and then make it their own without giving any credit to.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, I kind of said, there are, we think in the music world, a cover song. Sure. An artist performs someone else's song. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, that's actually kind of a cool thing. I think sometimes when a famous artist decides to cover somebody else's stuff, they do it in their own version. It's a compliment, I think, usually. But then you have cover bands, right? People who are playing exclusively someone else's material. But in both cases, everyone is aware that the singer doing the song, the cover song, or the band covering the other band's material is not the actual creator, originator of such. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it makes me think, if you're talking about folks who do kind of what Ice Ice Baby did, or Vanilla Ice did with Ice Ice Baby, he refused to admit.
Oh, right, that
he lifted the hook from
Yeah.
Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie.
Yes, in a way, because here's the thing: what would it have hurt?
Right.
I mean, people
That's exactly
sample.
Right. It was a compliment. That's right.
People sample stuff all the time because I love the song.
Right.
Great hook. Whether I did it intentionally or was inspired by. Obviously, it was inspired by it, or in some way. Yeah, I think because let's be honest. There's not like it's hard to make some original stuff, and you always be influenced by others.
Well, yeah, and that's what I thought of as I read the post. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit. It made me think of a few things sort of all at once, which I think is.
Did you disagree with that?
No, in fact, I thought, and I think you won't be surprised to hear this about me. I took it to a more cynical and more critical place in my mind. Like that is frustrating because I think we both have worked in ministry. We both. Or vocational ministry, I should say. We both have been around individuals we know. I'm sure you can think of people by name who, hear a sermon and then get up in the pulpit and say, I was thinking on some things and God showed me. Whatever, at its worst.
And my thing is, I don't mind at all, borrowing stuff from someone else's sermon or to their church, or a ministry idea, a program. Look, I think all of it is fine. I think what I was saying was give credit. Don't try to pass it off as though it's your own. I mean, you hear a great sermon and you want to share it with your congregation.
Right.
Do it. That's great.
Well, yeah.
Take that, give credit, say, hey, I was reading this book and this reminded me of this, or I heard this on TV or the radio or whatever. But I'm just saying, don't try to pass it off as though it's your own material.
Well, it made me think of this when I read it. It made me think about Ecclesiastes, right? There's nothing new under the sun. Right. The preacher says that. And then I'm thinking just now again about how it's it brings up for me an interesting commentary on and I guess this is the best sort of shorthand to use, evangelical movement in our country, how important it is to seem original.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I think for those who would call themselves Christ followers in any fashion, or maybe even adherents to any sort of historic faith, we have nothing new to say.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so there's this great, and we may have to do part 2 in episode 9, but because I'm feeling the, but why do we need to be, we don't need to be original.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought about it actually this morning. I was thinking about doing a follow-up post and maybe unpacking what I meant. I don't know that you have to be original in the sense that you have to create, to use the music analogy, you don't have to create a new genre of music or create new instruments. But I think I'm saying, I think people need to be authentic to who they are.
Absolutely.
And so, if you are a church in, rural South Georgia, maybe maybe you don't cover stuff from suburban Chicago.
Sure.
I mean, does it really fit your context? Are you being authentic to who you are, the context of where you are?
Yeah, it's funny because as you're talking, I'm thinking of all these sort of bullet point frustrations I have with the way we tell pastors they have to be, right?
Right.
So a pastor will watch. I think you referenced T.D. Jakes in the post. A pastor in anywhere, Panhandle, Florida, wherever, we'll watch a T.D. Jakes sermon, and let's just, doesn't matter about the demographics of the congregation. The simple fact that the person watching the show is not T.D. Jakes is enough reason to not try to be T.D. Jakes.
Your own person.
That person, exactly, yeah.
And if the sermon was great and you loved the points he's making and you want to share that with your group, I think that's fine to do that. Right. Share it. You might just mention, I was watching this earlier this week and it really made me think, and let me share with you my thoughts on it.
But I can almost see into the mind of that hypothetical minister thinking to himself, wow, that sermon really worked for Pastor Jakes out there. I bet it'll work really well. And that's the wrong way to approach the vocation altogether.
Well, I knew somebody who heard a sermon or a teaching, whatever you want to call it, loved it. It's great. I've heard it myself. It's really, really good. Rob Bell sermon, Dust of the Rabbi. Have you heard that one before?
Yeah, so not really a Christian thing. It was Rob Bell. 10 points, McClure.
It's Christian.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, so he actually got the transcript of that speech and then memorized the transcript.
Wow, sure.
Yeah, did the jokes, did the laugh, listened to it so many times, had the pause worked out. And I kind of felt bad because he thought this was so impactful to me. He wanted to recreate that experience for other people. And that's admirable. And I think that's a good thing. You were affected by this. But I guess I feel like saying, study the material and then take it, actually maybe do some of your own research, like double check some things, look into some things, and make it your own stuff. And you can reference it. Hey, I heard this teaching. I've done my own research, and here, is my version of this thing. I think this extends beyond just sermons, but to actual ministries. I think there are entire churches who are just cover bands.
Sure.
They don't realize it. I mean, I use the example that there are Elvis impersonators who think they're Elvis.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay to borrow and to use those things, but make it your own somewhere. And are you being authentic to your context of ministry?
No, that's good. That really, that has me thinking a lot of things. I think
So maybe authentic is better than original. Maybe that's a better word choice.
I think so because because it does. It's a tip of the hat, or it's acknowledging the fact that we all can learn from each other. One, we obviously all of us stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us, for sure. and we are going to. I mean, there's no question that when I used to, I guess speak before people more regularly. I'm sure I adopted affectations from folks that I liked.
Sure.
Right. But I guess it was sort of presented through the sieve of my personality and who I am. So yeah, some integrity. It's a matter of integrity to who you are.
I don't think it's even a bad thing to say, hey, this is a person that I enjoy listening to and I like their style, and that you even in some way kind of learn from them. The same way that bands that we love are influenced by other great bands that we love. And it's okay to acknowledge that, yes, we're influenced by, yada, yada, yada.
My dad, God rest him, he was a huge fan of, was it John Osteen? Is that Joel's father who's now passed? Yeah. And then Joel. And so every time my dad and I would talk on the phone when I was pastoring, if we talked about sermonizing at all or pulpiteering, whatever, if we talked about, how to preach and stuff, he would always say, you've got to begin every sermon with a story.
Yeah.
Joel Osteen is it just makes people feel comfortable. And I knew then, but I know now that my dad just wanted the best for me. But it sort of always made me think, I can't just do what Joel Osteen does because it works for Joel Osteen.
Right.
Now, I would say, to my credit, to some degree, I think when I spoke, folks felt pretty comfortable, my delivery, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always sort of chuckled that, if I had just, because you know how Joel and his father both hold their Bible a certain way at the beginning of the sermon and stuff. That's them, though. Do you know what I mean to say? I never wanted to sort of I didn't want to be a clone.
And it reminds me, or I guess to take it to a different analogy. Sure. I think of people who use computers, okay? And there are some folks that maybe they need help doing something like creating a spreadsheet or whatever, right? And they want to say, just tell me the buttons I have to push to create the spreadsheet. Yeah. Well, is that really helpful, just teaching someone how to push these buttons to create? Because right-click your mouse, do this, or insert. Right. No, I mean, teach them how to create a spreadsheet. They can create any spreadsheet they want to create. And if they've memorized buttons, then they can only create that one type of thing. And I guess I'm saying when it comes to ministries or sermons, et cetera, sometimes, I think some folks have learned how to hit certain buttons in certain sequences, and they don't have the ability to actually create or move beyond that thing. Does that sound too mean?
No, and I think ultimately it's important to remember that God, and this is going to sound hokey at first, but just bear with me, God made us the way we are for a reason, each individually. Yeah. And doing the things that we're talking about, doing things you just said, for example, leaves no room for the work of the Holy Spirit, right. Which, interestingly enough, in our most recent context, is an important part of the Pentecostal heritage, really, is leaving real room for the work of the Holy Spirit. And when you just sort of program yourself based on what works for someone else, you're excluding God's work in your life and in what you do.
I think the motives are often, they're good motivation. Absolutely. They want to recreate an experience or a sermon or a ministry or whatever, and it's good reasons to want to do that. But I guess I'd rather, teach someone how to fish than simply give them a fish.
That's right.
Can we use some more metaphors? Can we mix some more in there to really?
I know, that's so great. So, listen, manhandlers or meatloafers, thanks for stopping by. This has raised some good questions. I have some questions for you now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say we're going to put a pin in it because I'm going to address it because I think we're forgetting the stuff we've put pins in. This is going to stay fresh. I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah, we've lost the pins.
In a subsequent episode, I want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
They've come to my mind.
Good.
But folks, thanks for stopping by. Visit us at Manhands Podcast and on Facebook at facebook.com. Manhands Meatloaf. You can link from either of those pages to our YouTube page. We appreciate you listening. My name's Steven. He's Mike.
Thanks.